Welcome to the breakdown. I am your host, DELACREMEDELA. This is the breakdown show where we break shit down. And for this moment, we are going to take a look at this 2020 Ruby Franke short documentary. I've been waiting for someone to put something together on this outside of all the pieces of information from the clips of her YouTube channel to the 911 call the neighbor made when her son showed up at his house bruised and battered, to the trial. So I've been paying close attention to this. There are videos in the breakdown playlist about this if you look back. I've just been waiting for the right time to come to you with the shit. So I guess this is the time. So let me go ahead and get us going. This video is in the breakdown playlist. It's from 2020. It's called 2020 Ruby Franke, from Momfluencer to Felon, from ABC News. So let's take a look at this together. I honestly think Utah is one of the worst places in the world to raise a child, because we keep getting these stories out of Utah. Somebody go check on the children in Utah. I know people in Utah who've never even eaten a piece of shrimp. It's a different place. They don't got no water. Okay? The culture there, obviously, you know, we're talking about a religious culture, a culture soaked in religious abuse from Mormon history. Mormons are very closed-minded, mono-religion type of people. Their way is the only way. Their thoughts are the only thoughts. And they become diplomatic enough not to say anything, but the way they treat people is completely different. We have an interesting city here where I live that was settled, founded, and run now by Mormon religious culture. And I was sending my daughter to a school in the area and didn't know what the T was. And I was wondering why we kept having these strange encounters. And then when I started doing some research on the founder of the school, I saw that he graduated from Brigham Young University. Well, I went to seminary, okay? And in seminary, you know the names of different schools and their religious foundations. It's just something you get to know. You start calling religious groups by the colleges that represent them. And Brigham Young University is the College of Mormons. I respect all religions, but I don't respect religions that don't respect other religions. And so what we find is that there are some interesting things that keep coming out of Utah. Can we do a federal investigation on human rights in Utah to find out why these white people keep abusing their kids? Why these white people's kids keep coming up emaciated with signs of trauma, showing they've been detained and abused? Can we do a federal investigation on the white people in Utah? Maybe a gang injunction like they do in Chicago every weekend? See, 'cause what I want to look at here is not only the story, but I also want to look at how the story has been presented. I mean, Harambe killed a little black boy, and the boy's daddy's mugshot was everywhere. So I just want to kind of look at how this information is presented and how these beautiful white people are presented in the midst of these crimes, and even their children, how their children are treated in difference to how black kids are treated when there's trauma. I can almost guarantee you, if this was a 12-year-old black boy with ashy knees that walked up to this man's house in Utah, the man would not have handled it this way. I put my pinky finger on it. You can tell by the way this officer is speaking that this is unheard of. This is not something he's been desensitized to, like black people committing crimes. This is not something that he's gotten used to, like mugshots in the firing range with black men's faces on them that he's gotten used to shooting in the middle of the forehead. You can tell he is not used to this. And I wonder if Ruby Franke hadn't gained some type of celebrity at this point, if this would have been swept under the rug like other white-on-white crime.
When I heard him say that, it hit me pretty hard. I had to excuse myself out of the ambulance.
Later, detectives learned that it wasn't just the ropes that bound him and caused those wounds. It was also handcuffs. And did he tell you how he escaped?
He told us later in interviews that he unlocked the handcuffs from his wrists and his ankles, and then he exited through the sliding glass door of the room.
And did he tell you about his motivation, his state of mind in that moment?
Just hungry. He was hungry and thirsty, and he saw an opportunity to leave.
While R is being treated, he tells officers that he has 2 siblings who he thinks are still back at the house.
We didn't know if another sibling was in the same state of condition or possibly even dead in the home.
There's 2 other kids there. We need to go do a security sweep of that house.
Now, I want to take note. Now, I'm watching this for the first time. I don't know if it's the first time you've watched it. I added it to the breakdown playlist earlier today. This is my first time watching it. I want to take note of how they enter this house, what kind of words they use, what their tone of voice is, what their attitudes are. I just want to observe it because we've seen how these things are taking place outside of Utah with other demographics. And so I'm kind of interested to see how they handle this situation.
That house, police
Looked scared. The child looked scared.
At the time, Sergeant Tobler called me, and I was in the hospital with R. So I began asking R, hey, do you have a little brother? He said no. I have a younger sister there, 9-year-old, and he said she had a shaved head and she had brown hair. I said, when's the last time you saw her? And he said it's been over a month.
Oh. These kids are in the same house and they haven't seen each other in over a month. That sounds like some serious brainwashing. That sounds like some serious divide and conquer. That sounds like some serious trauma conditioning. Some serious MK Ultra. Monarch butterfly. Manchurian candidate type shit. I can't tell you what I've seen in other countries similar to this, because emotionally I can't handle speaking about it. But I've seen this before. And it's not by accident that you see adults grow up that all look alike, that all talk alike, that all sound alike, that all speak alike, that all have the same desires and values and cultural, whatever. They're all exactly the same. You go around from one corner to another and see the same person. There's a reason why. Because this kind of stuff is accepted in other parts of the world, but not here in America. We don't treat our kids like this. We don't isolate our kids and brainwash them for a month at a time. Why y'all get that baby a pizza and a shake if she hasn't eaten in a while? That's not what you feed a child on a severely empty stomach. You're going to cause her to have ulcers. I mean, I know it's what makes her happy, but can you think about her mental well-being and get her some vegetables? Some fresh fruit, some rice, some grilled chicken, some fish, maybe even a hamburger. A hamburger with cheese, tomatoes, and lettuce is typically got more nutritional value than a slice of pizza and a milkshake. You need this girl to be on her tip-top mental shape, emotional shape, and you gonna get her some damn low vibrational pizza? All right, police officers, do a little research and study on how to help trauma victims heal. You can heal a lot from what you eat. It means a lot to your psyche. You're going to get this girl a piece of pizza, probably with some slices of pepperoni on it. That pork is going to do all kind of things to her mental state. Pork causes anxiety. Did you know that? Because pigs live in a perpetual state of fear and lack. They eat whatever they can get. And their last memories are never good. So you going to throw a piece of pork on top of a pizza and give it to this girl in this state? I'm sure she would have been better off with some buffalo wings. Chicken ain't that good for you either when you talk about your mental state. It gives you all kinds of feelings of guilt and fear. It's really weird. But you could have given her a healthier meal to give her a right foundation for her brain and her heart and her emotions Those chemicals that flow through your body from the food that you eat are very important to your vibrations, your frequency, your mental state, your consciousness, your awareness, especially as children. And I believe children should have fun and eat pizza and ice cream. That's a great thing. But you're talking about somebody who's emaciated. Where's the foundation of that food? What appetite are you creating for her now that she's eating again? And a lot of people don't know is that when this kind of stuff happens, it's two things. Number one, people wonder why I'm on Tiffany Henyard and her crew the way that I am. I did Jaguar Wright the same exact way. She got 11-hour lives. Y'all remember? We stayed up all night with the police on the phone to make sure Angela Owusu was safe. Okay, when Jaguar Wright told her son, and I haven't even told y'all this, when Jaguar Wright told her son to go into the police station and threaten suicide so that she wouldn't have to worry about where he was for the night. We had to stay on top of this shit until it manifested in justice. There were groups of people who continued to expose Ruby Franke and then Judy Hildebrandt once she connected with her. But a lot of times it is the cries from these children who are suffering that bring attention to this mess. You wonder why all of a sudden there's this media attention around these subjects. Oftentimes it's the children whose energy brings justice. If you do any kind of spiritual work, you know there's 3 things you want to have nearby. You want to have a plant, you want to have an animal, and you want to have a child, and maybe a glass of water. Maybe a knife too. These things are very important, and children carry a lot of energy. I used to be able to see spiritual entities as a child, and my parents explained it to me. Children are very pure, very innocent. So it makes sense that these entities would reveal themselves to children. The other thing, like I said, you know, you got people who say, don't believe what you see on the internet. Well, Ruby Franke put herself on the internet and her abusive behavior. She said to her children sometimes, oh, the internet doesn't need to know mommy yells because it's just that bad. She would embarrass and humiliate and torture her children on camera, talk about taking their beds away, give their teachers hell for being human beings. Regular people who make their kids feel happy and comfortable. She didn't like her kids being happy. There are some people who do not like their kids having fun, do not like their kids being happy, will not budget, will not plan, will not do anything to make sure their children have an exceptionally fun lifestyle. My personal motto is the only thing I'm obligated to give my child is happiness. And if that comes through her food, if that comes through her education, if that comes through her clothing, her fun, the way she sleeps, where she lives, then so be it. But my obligation as a person who allowed her daddy to ski inside of me and then carried that pregnancy to birth, my obligation is to make sure she has a happy life. When she leaves this world, the portions that I had control over bring her smiles. Because I know what it's like to not have that. And then you don't think you really deserve it because the people that raised you wouldn't invest in your extracurricular fun. Well, that's what's happened with Ruby Franke. She is a very dogmatic person, very religious, very extreme, very legalistic, very self-righteous. It tends to be in these Christian-based religions. Catholicism, Christianity, Mormon, Jehovah's Witness, Seventh-day Adventist, Church of God in Christ. We find that in a lot of these Christian-based cults, there are those traits. Self-righteousness, legalism. Don't want your kids to have fun. That was it. Are you serious? Well, then let's continue and let's allow this story to maybe tell us a little bit more. That was 11 minutes. That didn't even get into the shit. That did tell us more than we've seen. I mean, we've heard the 911 call, I'm sure. We haven't seen the doorbell camera footage or the rooms in the house. So this is more information than we had before. If you want to hang in there with me, I would be happy if you do. I'm going to go ahead and continue with this next story that Otto played, called Truth and Distortion, the Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt story. It should be more comprehensive since it's 33 minutes. And this is from KUTV2 News, Salt Lake City.
Interesting. Okay, and the phone number you're calling from?
And what I find really crazy is these are places, Evans, Utah, these are places where black people are made to, I don't give a fuck about brown people. I'm black. I can't defend nobody else, especially when they don't defend me. We've done several actions in cities I've lived in, and Mexicans have walked right past us. But then when they need something, they calling us. Like Tariq Nasheed said, we in this together, but then I don't hear from them. So I'm not going to talk about who doesn't talk about me. I will talk about what I'm affected by. And I know that these are areas of the country where black people are made to feel inferior and uncomfortable. Like nothing we do is good enough. Like our yards aren't clean enough. Like the work we do isn't good enough. Our education isn't superior enough. You know, these are areas of the country, this Evans, Utah, are areas of the country.
Okay, and the phone number you're calling from?
These are places, Idaho, Utah, South Dakota. These are places where black people are made to feel so uncomfortable because the culture there is so anti-black. It's so pro-white. I call them European identity extremists. Everybody got to have blonde hair. Everybody got to have blue eyes. Everybody got to have pale skin. And they act like these were their mountains 300 years ago. Like they didn't go steal these mountains from some natives. My other heritage. As far as I know, that's all I am. I haven't been able to trace my heritage to anywhere outside of America pre-slavery. And I have the documents. All I know is that I'm a native. From one side of us from Omaha, the other side of us from California. But in America, I'm a black person. So I identify in that way to make it easier for the conversation. But they sitting here acting, in Utah, they acting like they built the mountains. They put the cactus there. They put the red rock there. And they didn't. They stole it. They colonialized it or colonized it. And then they make other people feel so uncomfortable. Like we can't be good enough. But this is what they do. When they get these lands all to themselves, they make us feel uncomfortable. They isolate themselves, and then they go out here and do crazy stuff. I grew up in Michigan. It's certain parts of Michigan black people just don't go. We say, them white folks out there take off your toenails and hang them on their Christmas tree. We know the barbaric.
Tell me exactly what's happened.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. Said he just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated. He's got tape around his legs.
Well, if they know there's been problems at the neighbor's house, why the fuck haven't they called the police? Why haven't they called Child Protective Services? How come they haven't been over there with their cameras filming, knocking on doors, seeing what's going on?
He's hungry and he's thirsty. And he asked us to call the police. So he's very afraid. Okay, this boy has been... This kid has obviously been... He's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds.
Are the neighbors out of their home, or is anybody looking for them that you can see?
I'm not sure. How did you get out of the house? He said you just left through the porch at the neighbor's house. Her name is Jody Hildebrandt.
It's a call to 911 that changed a family's life forever. Ruby Franke, a popular YouTube family vlogger, and her former
Sorry, y'all, my photo gallery just opened. There we go.
therapist turned business partner Jody Hildebrandt ultimately arrested for multiple felony counts of aggravated child abuse against Ruby's 12-year-old boy and his 10-year-old sister. The women's lives collided at least 3 years ago, according to Ruby's family members, well after the mom found fame and fortune, showcasing what many would call a strict...
These some ugly women. These be the women black men running off to be with. These ugly ass paper mache plain Janes. Whew.
And religious-focused approach to parenting on the YouTube channel titled 8 Passengers. Her co-stars traveling through life, 6 kids, and husband Kevin. Court document.
Right, they had 6 kids. So 3 were with Judy, and one of them was over at a neighbor's house cleaning up her floors. So that's 4. And then the older 2 kids that were grown, I think one of them left and started, I think she sued the family or started exposing the family. I think 2 of the older ones had left.
State a YouTube video filmed in Hildebrandt's basement published 2 days prior to the arrest showed the women who were present in the home and having knowledge of abuse, malnourishment, and neglect. Neither Ruby Franke, 41, nor Jody Hildebrandt, 54, chose to speak to officers at the time of their arrest, according to court documents, though Jody did tell investigators the 2 children in her care should not be around other kids. Both requested to speak to their lawyers and exercise their rights to remain silent.
Has he told you where his mom or dad are?
Haven't asked him that. Do you know where your mom and dad are?
Well, actually, I don't know where my mom is, but I do know where my dad is. He's not anywhere here.
Really don't know.
Nowhere here.
Is your mom around here? Have you seen her lately?
And somehow the father, Mr. Franke, I don't know his first name, and that's crazy to me because he's as much a part of this as anybody. He's been around. These are his kids. They make it seem like he just sits back and lets stuff happen, but that's not Mormon culture. Mormon culture is extremely chauvinistic. This man is the head of his household, okay? He is the breadwinner, and he's very much aware of what's going on. But somehow here, he has not been held accountable for endangering these children's lives by even allowing their mother and her friend to abuse them.
He doesn't know where she is right now.
Does he know his mom's name?
What's your mom's name? Ruby Franke.
Members of the Church of Jesus...
So they knew who he was. They knew who she was. He said Ruby. He said, what's your mom's name? And the neighbor, who's known this has been going on for a long time but never said a word. But I guarantee you if he had some black neighbors, he would be calling the police over there all the time because I think the neighbors think I'm selling dope. I guarantee you if he had some black neighbors who were barbecuing from time to time, he would find all kind of reasons to call the police. But this woman he knew was abusing these children. Now, this is the interesting thing. He asked the little boy, R, what's your mom's name? R said Ruby. The man said Ruby Franke. So you know who she is. And you know what's been going on. So why are you being held accountable?
Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the LDS or Mormon Church, the Franke life was available to anyone with access to the internet.
Can you ask him if any other children were in the home he came from?
Okay. Is there any of the kids up at Jody's house? 10 and 14, and they're still at this house.
Are they tied up as well?
What's the deal with...
Wait a minute.
10 and 14, and they're still at this house.
That little boy didn't say 10 and 14. He might have nodded his head yes. Because if you looked at the video from the last video, the doorbell camera shows the boy is sitting on a bench facing out. There's a woman in front of him, and the man is on a rocking chair close to the boy with his back to the boy. So they're within earshot of each other. When he asked if there were other kids up at Jody's house, the boy might have nodded his head. And he said 10 and 14, they're still at this. He knew. R didn't tell him those kids were 10 and 14. That's not how kids respond to questions. You ask a kid, is anybody at the house? The kid is going to say yes or no. The kid is not going to respond 10 and 14. He's known well before today what was happening there and never said a word. But I guarantee you, if these were black people, he would have had some reason to have called the police on them by now out in Evans, Utah, in Salt Lake City. It's always amazing to me how Salt Lake City has all these little suburbs with these different city names, but it's all Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City be trying to cover up the weirdness.
Are they tied up as well?
What's the deal with? Are they being held? Do they have wounds on them as well?
Nothing bad going on with us.
Okay. Okay. So they're able to walk around the house and everything. No.
So were the captions from the news story? That's why I turned on my own captions too. Because I learned when I lived in China that oftentimes the news will change what people say in the captions. You would have people who were interviewed in China at different periods when I lived there. And because I know Chinese, I knew what they were telling the news. And then the news would put a whole different caption in English, like they said something different. And so I know better because I know better. So I turned our captions on. And where this story said it was inaudible, the boy said, "Nothing like with us." So apparently the other kids don't have the same scars and marks and injury and bodily trauma that he has.
Okay. He says everything's fine with them. Grain of salt.
Okay.
He says what's happened to him is his fault.
That's sad to hear.
Controversy struck the 8 Passengers channel after one of Ruby's teenage sons revealed a 2020 video that he had no room and was sleeping on a beanbag for 7 months for pranking a sibling, pointing a BB gun at his face and hanging them up by a basketball hoop.
Sleeping on a beanbag?
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October. And they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago.
Despite
the thing is, if you look at her eyes, she's embarrassed that her son is revealing this because she knows it's wrong. I literally put my daughter back in bed this morning. I fell asleep on the show. I didn't even get to see the show from last night. That came on the breakdown show from last night. I didn't get to see it. I caught myself laying my daughter down to sleep in my bed, which was really bad because I fell asleep too. So I woke up 3 o'clock this morning, and y'all look like y'all had an amazing show. Thank you, Rosetta Brooks, for holding it down as a moderator. Thank you, Amanda MBS, for being such an amazing moderator, because last night I guess I had to sleep. And I can never tell when YouTube is going to actually upload the videos. So sometimes it takes 5 or 6 hours, believe it or not. These are long videos, but you can tell that she is embarrassed. And when I put my daughter to bed this morning, last night, I was like, do you know there's kids that don't even have beds? She was like, I don't want to sleep in my bed. And I was like, baby, there's kids in America who don't even have beds. Not even of their own, especially. You should be extremely grateful to be 6 years old and have your own bed. Listen, your own room and everything. And so this woman is taking her son's bed away for months. Now, any of us who are familiar with raising children or teaching children know that punishments should be executed in 2 ways: fast and short. Fast and short. Punishment should be executed fast, within the amount of time that the whatever action occurred. So you can't start a punishment on a kid when you find out they did something yesterday. You just got to charge that one to the game. If you didn't catch them in that action, you can't really put a punishment on that child when their behavior was that long ago. Second thing is it has to be quick. You cannot have a child in a punishment state for too long. It causes depression. It causes anxiety. It causes all kind of PTSD. I don't care what the punishment is. I don't care if it's standing looking at a wall doing timeout, writing lines, doing runs, burpees, whatever people have their kids do. Take a beanbag, make them sleep on a beanbag, make them eat all their dinner, whatever it is. You can't make children subject to that kind of torment for more than I would say 3 or 4 minutes. If any kind of punishment, especially corporal punishment, and that involves any kind of physical punishment, lasts longer than 3 minutes, now we're talking about abuse. Now we're talking about a transfer of energy because you're angry, you resent that child, and you want them to feel what you feel. Okay? So for her to have her child sleeping on a beanbag for months, and that's obviously a long boy, a growing child. A beanbag is a circle. It might be, 24, 36 inches wide, maybe? You can't sleep on no fucking beanbag. It doesn't offer support. You can't stretch out on it. He can't even grow. You cannot grow laying on a beanbag. And you can tell by her eyes, she knows this is wrong. She knows
For
that this
pranking
behavior
a
is
sibling,
inappropriate.
pointing a BB gun at his face and hanging them.
And she's looking at the camera, reminding herself that they are on camera. Wishing she wasn't. While her child tells the world that she's made him sleep on a beat. Where the fuck are her husband's balls letting him abuse her children like that?
Up by a basketball hoop.
Sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October. And they gave my room back
She
like
is
2
so,
weeks ago.
it's cringy, right? She is so embarrassed
That he had
they
no
know
room
this.
and was sleeping on a beanbag for 7 months for pranking a sibling, pointing a BB gun at his face and hanging them up by a basketball hoop.
Sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October. And they gave my room.
She had her son sleep on a beanbag since October because he pointed a BB gun at his brother's face, and I think he hung him up outside. He did some big brother shit. Some you'll poke your eye out shit, some Christmas story shit, some white boy shit. That's what I call it. Because I have a good friend named Mikey. He Mexican, but he's straight up white boy. And we always take the bullet, what's the thing called? The gun, with the little pellets. The same thing this boy used. Like an airsoft out. And we go and put a pillow in a box and shoot it when I'm feeling myself. When they getting on my nerves, I go out to the desert and shoot. I haven't shot in the desert with a real gun yet, but we do like to practice with the BB gun. That's what it is. And so she done took her son and put him in a beanbag, took away where he's able to sleep. His civil right. It is a civil right. That's why jails have to provide beds. It is a civil right. His civil right to have a place to lay his head. And she's taking that from
Like 2 weeks ago.
Despite the video being presented in a lighthearted way, even getting a few chuckles from the mom and other siblings in the clip, online viewers expressed their dismay, with one even starting an online petition demanding an investigation.
And this is what it takes. See, we are now in the age of Aquarius. We are not in the age of work. We are in the age of energy. So it's hard for people to understand that your success is not necessarily based on the work you do. Your success is now based on how you feel. Whether or not you're happy, whether or not you feel fulfilled. Okay, whether or not you have joy in your life. Well, a lot of that also goes into how we handle things. We no longer have to work our way into justice. Now, you can start a change.org petition. And a lot gets done. And you guys have seen me post a petition to remove Mayor Tiffany Henyard. I hope you've seen it. I hope you've signed it. Because it is necessary. But I'm going to read what this petition says. It says, it started by everything about 8 passengers. Okay? Hi, if you don't know who 8 passengers are, they're a family of 8 YouTube family. They have produced video content since around 2014, 2015 regularly. And in recent years have been subject to controversy in the past for things that they have done, such as taking their young... Tiffany Henyard, you could take a note. I'm reading this for the first time and it reads so easy. Take a note. Or whoever writes your shit. Excuse me. They have done such as taking their youngest, Eve, which is E. That was the little girl in the closet. They took her to the supermarket naked at 3 with just a diaper on. Another was when she told us Russell, who is R, that's the boy who showed up at the neighbor's house, did not have autism because it was something along the lines of he was not intellectually challenged, when the boy probably does have some sort of autism. Thirdly, she sent her son to a behavior camp. That's Judy Hildebrandt's camp, which focused on kids who had done drugs, carried knives, etc. for the reason that he was kicked out of school. Now, the boy was kicked out of school, and because she was embarrassed as a narcissistic mother, instead of not being embarrassed or dealing with the issue, she sent him to camp. And finally, the subject we are talking about today, she banned all electronics, which I don't understand. I have friends that do it. Shout outs to you. That's your child. But I refuse to raise a child, especially coming from a household where we had a computer in 1993. We had a VIC-20 in 92. You know what I'm saying? We had a Commodore 64 back in the late 80s. I come from a technology family. My dad used to build computers for fun. He built me my first laptop that I took to college. My mom was a computer programmer, database administrator. So I understand the necessity of technology. I also understand what my mother taught me. Any parent with disciplined children has to be a disciplined parent. So that means we turn it on, we turn it off. We listen to what our children are watching. We put certain controls and passwords to monitor and mediate what they're able to consume. And we explain to them what they might come across that might not reach what we want. So I don't see the use of banning all electronics, especially in this day and age where kids use iPads in schools. Like, if I can't leave my daughter with my phone for a few minutes, what the fuck? That's my own personal thing. But anyway, this is what this person wrote. Very well written as well. Thank you.
Into the issue.
Let me continue. So she banned all electronics from her kids from all summer, including TV. So for 90 or so days, her kids weren't allowed to have any My parents tried that TV ban, but then they found out it was on them to entertain us. So they brought the TV back. We had some friends when I was a little girl who treated their kids like this. And my parents thought that shit was cool and for a little bit until they realized that it just wasn't going to work with our house. The children appeared very sad in the recent video, saying they have no friends. And Ruby's response to this was that is a very vulnerable thing for you to say. Do you want me to keep that in the video? That's what she responded when her kids said they have no friends. Surely, if she felt sad about this, as she sounds in the video, she would act on what they said. This is due to them having no access to talk to their friends whatsoever, due to Ruby not allowing them to. See how I skip over typos when a person is nice?
10,000 people signed it. People flooded TikTok recounting.
So it goes on to say, to add to this, Chad, her second eldest, told us in a recent video that he has recently been taking down, but in the process of finding the video. I know you start saying it over. I don't think I read that correctly. To add to this, Chad, her second eldest, told us in the recent video that has recently been taken down, but I'm in the process of finding the video, that he has been left on the floor for 7 months on a beanbag, solely because he teased his brother. If you can agree with me on this, the removal of a bed and being left on a beanbag is going to not only give him lack of sufficient sleep, but also create spinal problems, digestive problems, all kinds of problems. Because I don't know if you know this, but the way you sleep has a lot to do with the way your food is digested. For example, if you sleep on your left side, which is where your stomach is, your food will actually digest in your sleep a lot more efficiently, and you'll wake up with better poops. Take my word for it. Ruby and Kevin say a bedroom is a privilege, which it is. And that's because you have enough money to provide your child with a bedroom. But that's not something you take away because they teased their brother. It's not one of those things. See, the way they raise their children is so legalistic, they have to earn everything. Everything. They have to know that every single thing they have is a privilege. Your bed is a privilege. Your clothes are a privilege. The food you eat is a privilege. Us getting your hair done is a privilege. You being able to brush your teeth is a privilege. You having good water is a privilege. No, but okay, it's a privilege, but that doesn't mean you take it away if they don't do what you want them to do all the time. Discipline should be constructive. I remember when I came home from college, my daddy had bought me a second car, so I'd have a car at home because I left my car at college. That way I didn't have to drive back and forth and I could just fly, right? So my daddy bought me this badass car so I could have a car at home. And I went to go hang out with my sister, who I know is listening. And we were actually talking about this a couple days ago. And my daddy, I went and hung out with my sister, my play sister, who my daddy wasn't a fan of, but she actually ended up being very close to my parents after I grew up and moved away. It's really weird. Her and my mom and my dad were so close. But while I was a teenager, my parents did not feel her because I used to always get in fights with her boyfriend, who she's still with. I love you too. That's my brother now. See how time changes, people? So I used to always get in fights with her boyfriend over whatever they were going through. But that was still my sister, and I was home for Christmas. I was going to go visit my sister, and we had a rule in my house. My parents' rule was, if you're going to be out past 2:30 a.m., you need to call us and tell us where you're sleeping tonight. So I did. At about 2 o'clock in the morning, I called my parents and from her house phone. And I was like, I'm staying here with such and such tonight. And my parents didn't like it because they were control freaks. So when I came back the next day at about 11 or 12 o'clock in the afternoon, not hungover, not no shit like that, just came back, my daddy took my car keys. He took my car keys because he didn't like the fact that I spent the night over at my sister's house. And I told him to keep them. You can have them. I don't want them. And I had to teach my mama a lesson in that moment. Because my mom was like, I don't understand why you don't want, your dad took the keys and... No, that's not what happened. My daddy took the keys. I didn't say anything about them. He brought them back to me a day later, and I did not want them. And my mother was surprised because he plays this game in this time in her life. He played this game with her a lot too, where he would give her something and take it away and give it and take it away. Well, I wasn't going to allow him to do that to me. I had another car already in Mississippi that I needed. That was my most important vehicle. This second car that he bought me obviously wasn't my most important vehicle. This was my second vehicle. Okay? And I wasn't going to allow him to spoil me and control me at the same time. Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. You're not going to spoil me and use that as a source of control over me. Not gonna happen. So in front of my mama, I told my daddy, keep the keys. And I had a private conversation with my mama, and I said, it's not right that this man would go and buy me a car to have when I come home. And I follow the rule that says if I'm not home by a certain time, I need to reach out to you, let you know where I'm sleeping. But because he doesn't know, because he doesn't like who I'm with, he gonna take the car, he can have it. He can have it. What we not going to do is play that game with me. Not with me, who's already been away and gone and seen how other people treat their kids and had different experiences and known that this behavior is not normal. Not with me. So my mother had a conversation with my daddy. He gave me them keys back, and that was my car. We never had that problem again. As a matter of fact, my daddy still had that car for years and years after that, and I was still able to use that car when I came home. And we established a new culture because that can't work. You might be able to get away with that when I was 17, 16. You can't get away with that when I'm 19. I know better now. So if you want the car, you can have the car. But he didn't because he already had his own couple cars. So now what you going to do with this third car that you got that you can't control nobody with? It was still my car. Okay? I told you, I have been raised by narcissists. I have been raised by micromanagers, control freaks. I have been raised by people who use their disposable income to try to control other people. To this day. Y'all wonder why I won't bring them ashes in my house. Okay. I'll see you at a beach in Malibu. We'll spread the ashes on the beach. So let me continue. Ruby and Kevin say the bedroom is a privilege. Now, Kevin is her husband who ain't got no balls. He probably talked like Louis Lacy. And that they should have consulted their therapists and psychologists. Ruby and Kevin say the bedroom is a privilege and that they should have consulted their therapists and psychologists. Damn. How bad these kids doing that they got a team of therapists and psychologists? I think a lot of us would love to know who these people are. If you read on the removing privileges, it states removing basic necessities is child abuse. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know the law because I don't abuse my child, so I don't really get into knowing the law. But I do know that if I give my bed, to me, just as a heart, as a mom, if I give my baby a bed and she decides to tease her sibling for me to remove that bed and make her sleep on the bed bag. It just seems like, somebody eating an apple in the forest and then God punishes them by making all childbirth painful and they can die and go to hell without accepting Jesus. It just seems like cruel and unusual punishment. Like one thing doesn't go with the other.
Incident, pulling other clips from the channel, including one where Ruby...
So it goes on. I'm sorry. I have to see the rest of this. Forgive me. It goes on. I want to read the rest of what this says. Okay. This family... Hold on.
Channel, including one...
No, this is where we want to be. This family is profiting off their children and focusing on themselves as they say they're the adults. So when you have a family that has that... I'm the adult, you're the child hierarchy, you can't say nothing, what you think means nothing, shut up and respect us. My parents used to tell us, we don't owe you any respect. We don't have to respect you. So when I grew up and I went out into the world with this chip on my shoulder, loud, angry, yelling, fighting, defending myself, combative, that's where that came from. My parents raised me believing that they didn't have to respect me. I didn't know until I was married and 30-something and trying to have my own kids that wasn't normal. That wasn't normal for my parents to tell me they don't have to respect me, that everything they give me is a privilege, that outside of my food and my clothing and my shelter, everything they give me is a privilege and I should be grateful for it and should never have any issues with how I'm treated. But don't let nobody else in the world disrespect you. You pop a bitch in the eye if she disrespects you. Pick up the biggest brick you can find if they disrespect. That's what my parents taught me. You go out into the world and you make sure everybody respects you. But we don't have to respect you. And I might have been 35 the day my mother called me and told me my father had cancer. And she had been cutting me off at that point for a year or two. She cut me off because I didn't agree with her on whether or not I should be on birth control. I'm grown and married. This ain't our conversation. This is a conversation for me to have with my husband. But this is what happens when you raise kids and you're narcissistic. You think that even as adults, they need to be under your thumb. Well, the day my mother called me to tell me my dad had cancer, her attitude was so nasty. And I was like, don't you think this is a time when all that could be set to the side? Whatever you mad at me about, I think right now what's most important is us taking care of your husband and my father. And she tried that shit again. I don't have to respect you. She tried it at 35 years old. My mama tried it with me. I'm the parent. I don't have to respect you. I said, you're right. You don't have to respect me. But let me tell you something. All these bills are in me and my husband's name. I don't have to fuck with you. Don't have to deal with you. Don't have to take your phone calls. Don't have to do nothing. Because you've set me up in such a way that I've learned how to live without you. So if you choose not to respect me in this moment, understand what you're choosing. So they had created this culture, Kevin and Ruby Franke, that because they were the adults, their children had no say. It didn't matter how they felt, what they wanted, what their needs were. You understand? So it goes on to say, they have furnished their bedroom with a bed frame and a new furnished bathroom with a $2,000 toilet seat from YouTube money. But they make their children sleep on the floor on a mattress. Now, they've given themselves everything. Where do you get a $2,000 toilet seat from? What the fuck does that toilet seat do? I know it has to include some kind of bidet. It has to. My baby got excited. She playing with her toys in the hallway. I had to push her into her room. I didn't want you guys to have to suffer the background noise. She having a ball in there too. She just got this new toy set that she's just enjoying way too much. Anyway, so you got the parents have furnished their bedroom with a bed frame and a new furnished bathroom with a $2,000 bed toilet seat while their children sleep on the floor in a mattress. on a mattress. Now, y'all saw that picture I posted the other day when my baby laid on the floor, put a cover over her head, and went to sleep. And I had told her earlier, baby, that's how you catch a cold. You shouldn't be laying on the floor. Nobody's mattress. I know Phaedra said, Phaedra and Apollo Nida from Real Housewives of Atlanta fame. Apollo said Phaedra had fucked him on a air mattress when they first met. Good for you. But that's how you catch a cold. Sleeping on a mattress because the floor is cold. I don't care what time of year it is. This person goes on to say, the family will not allow us viewers to speak, and so as a result, we have taken our own action. We are supposedly quote unquote triggered, which is supposed to be an insult, but I don't take it lightly. I mean, I joke sometimes and say, why you triggered? Because I really want to know, like, why are you upset? But to say people are triggered is not a throw off. It's not an insult. I mean, if you're abusing your children and people are triggered, it's because a lot of times it reminds them of what they went through and they see very clearly. Okay? A lot of these insights come from our own experience. We are triggered and shouldn't be because it's not our kids. Because that's their attitude. You know, if it's not our kids, we don't care. And we don't live with them 24/7. However, Ruby produces the videos for us to watch, and so we can judge them if we choose. You know what? I didn't go over our house rules this morning, and I apologize. So let me remind you, number one, this is not a no judgment zone. We say what we see and we see what we say. I'm not about to sit here and play games with people and not judge them because it makes them feel bad. Fuck you. You putting yourself out here in these streets. And so as she said, however, because you have an option to watch your videos before you post them if you don't want something. It's all kind of editing apps and software out there where you can edit your videos if there's something you don't want to go over the air. However, Ruby produces the videos for us to watch. And so we can judge them if we choose. There's nothing stopping us but the play button. Ruby, a couple months ago, spoke about how she shows too much of her life. And now suddenly she's saying we know nothing about her at all. Wow.
Where Ruby recounted withholding lunch from her kindergartner who forgot it at home.
Now, this was my first time seeing this family, and I didn't even connect the dots. I saw this video that she put on YouTube about not taking her child lunch. I saw another video about a teacher who had her kids. The teacher had the kids practicing a dance to a song that it obviously wasn't about Jesus. So Ruby couldn't handle it and she had a fit. But this right here is crazy because I can't tell you how many times I have had a Postmates or a DoorDash or a Uber Eats or a Grubhub or my own ass or somebody from my friend group take some food to my daughter because she didn't take none. How do you have a child go all day with no food?
So the outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry.
The husband, people flooded TikTok recounting the incident, pulling other clips from the channel, including one where Ruby recounted withholding lunch from her kindergartner who forgot it at home.
The natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry.
The husband and wife
there are some people who don't know how to parent, so they try to find this one way of doing everything, right? They're either gentle parents or they're natural outcome parents, or I mean, everything don't have to be one way. You can flow. Like I said yesterday, I allowed my daughter to use curse words, a certain amount of them, until I noticed that she was losing control and she was just cussing willy-nilly and it didn't make any sense. Ooh, these some good motherfucking donuts. I mean, for what? Close your window. The neighbors don't need to hear that. So I pulled back the cussing and she was extremely upset. But I was like, if mommy gives you something and you misuse it, it's my job to take it back until you learn how to use it. What happened in this situation was her kindergartner, who she's made responsible for making her own lunch. Make that make sense. My daughter's responsible for making sure that when we go to the zoo, she got to change her clothes because we most likely going to stop at the splash pad. Because she's had the experience of going to the splash pad without a change of clothes, and now she got to walk around the zoo wet. So now she knows it's her responsibility. If you want to go to the splash pad, you got to make sure you take an extra pair of clothes with you. I'm not doing it. But what I will do is make sure she has her lunch. So if your child lied to you and said they had a lunch, how come you didn't check her backpack? Don't you check her backpack before she goes to school to make sure she ain't got no lip gloss? Well, you probably don't even let your kids play with makeup. You don't let them play with toys, so I doubt that would be in the backpack. So maybe you don't check their backpack. Because my baby be having all kinds of stuff. Little stuff that she thinks is important. But I can't see sending my child to school every day without checking their backpack to make sure they have their lunch bag. So her kid gets to school, doesn't have lunch. Of course, she wasn't about to tell her mom she didn't have lunch because she didn't want to deal with the abuse. Because her daughter most likely is an empath, which is the opposite of a narcissist, but the same trauma, same manipulative nature, just using it differently. So she manipulated her mom by lying and saying she didn't she had her lunchbox because she didn't want to deal with the abuse. She got to school, told her teacher, I don't have a lunchbox. Her teacher calls the mom. Mom, now I know that there have been times when I've had to say, and my parents have had to say, could you make a peanut butter jelly sandwich for me? Because I can't get there and I can't send anything. And I don't know how this happened, but I know you got a kitchen. So can you please just provide something for me and I'll make sure it doesn't happen again? But no, Ruby Franke tells the teacher, don't make her a peanut butter sandwich. Don't make her nothing. The natural outcome is that she has to not eat. Well, see, that's egregious and it's going too far. Because natural parenting works when your kids are late for school, so then now they got to go to school late. Or they missed the bus, so now they got to walk. Well, black kids can't do that because we get shot. Don't ever make your black kids walk to school. This black woman did that. Her son was late, so the natural outcome was he had to walk to school. On the way to school, he got tired, knocked on this white man's door for a ride, and got shot. Because we don't live in the same world. But natural outcomes should not lead to abuse. Okay? Natural outcomes should not lead to abuse. Now you setting your kid up for failure. So she tells the teacher not to make the baby a peanut butter sandwich. And she goes online and makes a video. We wouldn't know about this if she didn't tell us. So don't tell us not to judge you. She makes a video telling the whole wide motherfucking world and Atlanta that she decided to withhold food from her child.
Insider that the clips were taken out of context. After the couple began counseling with Jody, Ruby joined her therapist's business, Connections Classroom, in 2021.
So everything in Connections is broken down into truth or distortion. It's not broken down into good or bad.
According to the website, Ruby is listed as a certified mental fitness trainer who also creates content on social media channels focusing on empowering parents and children to live in truth. By August of 2022, Ruby separates from her husband, according to his attorney. 8 passengers stopped up.
Oh, that's how he got out of it. The separation in 2022. So that's how he's avoiding legal shit. Okay.
Uploading videos after January 2023. At the time, the channel had more than 2.28 million subscribers.
You wonder where I've been on my vlogs? You wonder why I left YouTube? It's to save my kids. No amount of money. And I'm telling you, I was making millions. And I left it because my kids were being hurt.
On the website's About page,
because her kids' hurt was being exposed. That's why she left YouTube. Because her kids' pain was being exposed. And she stopped making videos, but she still capitalized off of the video she had already posted. Understand?
Grant said that Connections is the solution for anybody experiencing feelings of pain relating to relationship problems, anxiety, fear, or depression.
So I really encourage people not to use the words of, this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. Instead, everything is looked at and scrutinized through the lens of truth or distortion. And that's why this is so powerful.
He's very thirsty and
Need an ambulance?
I don't think he needs an ambulance. I'll let the cops decide that, but his ankles are taped up and he won't tell us why.
Okay.
But he has duct tape around each ankle. Yeah, there's sores around him. I think there's a good chance he's been
He also said,
Oh, and he has them around his ankles. I mean, his wrists as well.
Okay. Let's get the paramedics headed over that way, okay?
Well, that's a good idea, too.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. And it would have been a good idea for you to call CPS or the police when you knew this crazy woman was next to you and there were problems at her house. But white protects white, don't it?
Court documents would later reveal that the duct tape was wrapped around the boy's wrists and ankles because the binding, which included handcuffs, cut into his skin, damaging the muscle tissue. Ropes were used to tie 2 sets of handcuffs together so his arms and lower legs were lifted off the ground. He was also tied to an adult or even weights.
The things that I experienced while living with Jody, I experienced being tied, I experienced being duct taped, I experienced being blindfolded, I experienced severe isolation.
Now this is Jody Hildebrandt's daughter, her child, saying these things. This is a woman who is a pathological abuser of children. She probably hates children. A lot of adults do. Whether you know it or not, most of your kids' teachers hate kids. They hate children. They don't like to see kids happy. They don't like to see kids have fun. Most of your kids, especially if your kids are in special ed, please believe your child's special ed teacher does not want to see them succeed. Number one, they won't be able to get paid. Number two, your child's special ed teacher gets off on seeing people need him or her. I used to ask my ex-girlfriend, who was a special ed teacher, would you ever teach gifted and privileged or gifted and talented children? She said, no, I wouldn't. I said, why? She said, because I don't like the parents. Well, no, it's not the parents, honey. It's that you're incompetent and you're not that smart. So you would hate to be around another child who shows you that when you were their age, they're doing better than you. If you are comparable about your levels of intellect at the same age, you'll find that these were the children you wish you were. Especially in public schools. A lot of these public school teachers do not like children, especially in some states where they're not required to have full education degrees. I just learned that in the state of Arizona, teachers aren't required to have a bachelor's of education and pass the Praxis 1 and 2 to teach. They only have to have an early childhood education degree. Bitch, that is a daycare degree. My best friend in college, Erin, chose to get an early childhood education degree because she couldn't pass her Praxis 2. She could not pass the necessary testing to become a full-fledged teacher in the state of Mississippi. So she decided instead to become a daycare worker. And a lot of these daycare workers are teaching your children elementary, middle, and high school. They ain't got no business teaching. And again, a lot of teachers, when you go home with them and you find out how they talk about your kids and you'll find out they cannot stand children. Most of them don't have children. Their wombs have been shut off for a reason. They are not allowed to procreate, but they'll teach and get paid and torment your child all day.
Experienced severe emotional, spiritual, and psychological abuse.
It's not the first time Jody, as a therapist, has been accused of using duct tape or other unorthodox, what some would consider cruel punishment techniques on a child.
I experienced...
But look at her. Look at Jody Hildebrandt for a second. Now, we talk about being superficial. We can talk all day about being superficial. Let me go to... I didn't even see that. I need to go read that. Hold on.
Spiritual and psychological abuse.
It's not the first time Jody, as a therapist, has been accused of using duct tape or other unorthodox...
I have said before, and you can call me what you want, I have said before, beauty comes from the inside out. And if a person is not attractive, no matter how much money they have or no matter how hard they try, that's what's coming out. Garbage in, garbage out. Look at this woman. She appears to me to be the kind of person who don't like black people and don't like children. She get real quiet around black women, especially. She get real tight and act like she better and they're just not behaving well enough for her. And if you have her watch your little black child, she gonna have all kind of complaints about something. Okay? She don't like children. She don't have no business around children, and you can look at her and tell. Believe what you see.
What some
Believe what the fuck you see.
consider cruel punishment techniques on a child.
I experienced the being told I shouldn't be around other people, being told that I was dangerous to be around. People were afraid of me to the point where I was afraid of myself.
Jessie Hildebrandt told KUTV2 News they were subjected to torture at the hands of their Aunt Jody as an underage teen. Jessie said their parents left them in Jody's care with no warning for nearly a year.
I was forced to sleep outside in the snow. I was, like I said, isolated for up to 12 hours a day. If someone spoke to me directly, if I wasn't wearing duct tape on my mouth, I had to just stare at them and not respond, because she also had systems of people that would report back to her if I broke any of these rules.
We need you. We love you. We know what power exists inside you. And we want you to be here. So please, humble yourself. Become curious about what we're saying.
Jessie explains how devastating it was to hear details about the arrest, given the similarities of abuse she detailed to police that were documented in a 2010 report KUTV2 News obtained.
It's devastating because I went forward as well. I went to the police when I was 16.
According to the report, Jessie told police they had their mouth duct taped to prevent them from talking, were forced to sleep outside, had restricted shower and bathroom use, wasn't in school, and was wearing the same clothes for 3 weeks. If in any rooms, Jessie said the doors had to remain open at all times. American Fork Police recommended the report forwarded to the Department of Child and Family Services.
And I tried to do what I could, and no one believed me. Because why would they? She destroyed my credibility. I was an angry teenager, and now I'm just you're just like an emotional, angry teenager and she had told people that I destroyed my family's life, that I destroyed my dad's life, that every person I come in contact, I destroy. So she sets up the premise, and then when I come forward and try to tell people, like, this is what's happening, she can be like, oh, see? Jesse's trying to destroy my life, is what they do. It just all adds up. So she's so good at protecting those loopholes and discrediting people.
A few weeks after that report was filed, Jessie ran away. Their Aunt Jody filed a report with American Fork Police, claiming Jessie likely fled because they did not want to go to a girls' juvenile program for troubled youth. Jessie was found a month later by police at a shelter in Salt Lake City. According to the report, they told officers they ran away from their aunt because they were forced to run and confess their sins, calling it an attempt to break them down. Ruby's young daughter...
This says... She ran away from her Aunt Jody because she made her run and confess her sins and tried to break her down. Redacted said if her parents try and get her to go back to live with Jody, she will run away as soon as she can. Redacted said Jody is some kind of therapist and thinks she has all the answers, but Jody insults me all the time in front of others and acts like I am evil by not letting me talk to other kids or her kids or others. Didn't she say the same thing about the little girl, that she wasn't good to be around other kids? Redacted said that she went to Salt Lake because of all the shelters and sources to help homeless people. I just told them my name was something else. What? I stayed one night with some weird dude and sat up on the couch all night. Redacted said she does not know his name and left the next morning.
Faced a similar punishment. She was also forced to run barefoot on dirt roads for an extended period of time, according to court documents.
I just hope that this can give the public some context and some clarity of what is happening and why they should not believe her.
Jessie believes their family left them in Jody's care because they considered Jessie a troubled teen, which was an idea that they said was reinforced by Jody.
Her whole thing, which is deeply, darkly ironic, is that everything stems from shame and how horrible shame is, and that all of the reason, like all of mental illness, all tics, so like OCDs, addiction, everything stems from shame, which is just horrifying because she is the greatest perpetuator of shame. She accused me of being a sex addict. She accused me of being...
The thing is, on the vibrational scale, and what Jody was teaching, she was actually... she was using what she knew to manipulate people. On the vibrational scale, which sometimes if you ever see in the community tab, I post my screensaver. If it's a certain time, like 11:11, 2:22, 12:34, something like that. Well, if you notice on my screensaver, I actually have the vibrational scale, the human vibrational scale, the vibrations that you are in at different points. So I use that for myself to check myself. Well, the very lowest vibration ever is shame. That's the lowest vibration you can feel. And that's why a lot of quote unquote sins have been connected to cause shame. Smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, having sex before marriage, gambling, those things have actually been known to, in religious circles, you're supposed to feel shame if you commit those actions. But those are actually vibration increasing actions. It's kind of ironic.
Addicted to masturbation to the point where I wasn't allowed to, I mentioned this on the podcast, to the point where I wasn't allowed to use tampons. I never was allowed privacy unless I was isolated. So that included the bathroom. I was never allowed to have the door closed because she was convinced that I was just constantly masturbating. She was convinced that I was addicted to porn. I had never seen porn at that point in my life. I didn't even know that people with my anatomy could masturbate. Like, I had no idea any of this stuff, but I just believed her.
The accusations of addiction to porn were echoed by Ruby against her own son, who escaped to a neighbor's house and asked for police. According to the Daily Mail, in the first custody hearing over the mom's 4 minor children, Ruby claimed one child began looking at porn nearly 10 years ago when they were only 3 years old. She also claimed the child sexually abused other children, providing no evidence of this at the hearing. Jessie finds it haunting to think her Aunt Jody wielded such influence over Ruby and her children.
To hear Ruby tell the world that her child is a sex addict, a predator, and has been addicted to porn since he was 3 years old, it just echoes exactly the things that she was telling me and telling everyone around me. It's been a really interesting experience watching everyone focus on Ruby, and I understand why, but this is Jody. These are Jody's words. These are Jody's ideas. These are over decades old. It was just so directly similar. I mean, the exact thing. This is exactly what she does. This is what Jody does. And so now, because she's painted him as this thing, regardless of what comes out, like, he's no longer, I mean, I think hopefully the public can see through this and the judge can see through this. But that's the goal, is so that anything that he says is now no longer credible.
Jessie's Mormon faith that they shared...
See, there's something that we depend on in America to validate something, and that is whiteness. Whiteness is supposed to validate something, and I'm just going to call it what it fucking is. We have here a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, broad-shouldered woman who is stating things. And if you've ever been in conversation and you're not white, with white people listen very closely. Y'all have a way of interjecting in conversations or being part of conversations and speaking as if what you say is the truth regardless. We call it, because I'm white and I say so. See, Jody depended on that, and she knew that's prevalent in society. She knew that her whiteness is currency. It's power, it's authority, it's validity. So nobody questioned what she said because she's white and she's blonde and she got blue eyes and she dresses very modestly and she got huge calves. We got to check that. Because when y'all heard the clip where Tina Knowles said, this white lady said your daughter didn't marry nobody but a drug dealer. Y'all went and ran with that. And not y'all, a lot of people ran with that and believed that Tina Knowles was concerned about Beyonce being drugged by Jay-Z. But when I went back and watched the original video, number one, that wasn't what she said. And number two, that wasn't the context she said it in. And we did a whole breakdown about that video where I showed you the clip and the original content. But because we heard Tina Knowles say, this white lady said You know, we think, oh my God, what do white people think about us? Oh my God, we can't afford to not be accepted. We can't afford to not be applauded. Oh no, this white lady thinks Beyonce married a drug dealer. Oh no, that wasn't even what Tina Knowles said, nor what she was talking about. But whoever culture created, which is the channel that took that clip and turned it into a whole false narrative, they depended on your love for white people and your hatred for yourself to validate that story when it was completely untrue.
The time with Jody, they say, was also weaponized and used as a form of control. It was a detail Ruby and Jody admitted to in court documents. Both said they were convinced the children that they were evil and possessed, that punishments were needed to show obedience and repent.
She used religion and God as a mode of control and a mode to manipulate. And so I just believed all of these things. And I was a teenager. And so a child in that position of being told this over and over and over and over again, which I'm certain he was, stood no chance.
Is that why you've called Jody the mastermind behind all of this?
Yes. That doesn't excuse Ruby's involvement and her perpetuating these beliefs and these systems. But Ruby didn't come up with this. Ruby obviously supports it and has used these on her children. But this is coming from Jody. She wanted to make my life so uncomfortable that it would force the sin out, that it would force me to confess. So things continuously got worse and worse and progressively more and more intense as a way to get me to confess, because she believed that if I had confessed everything, if all of my sins were out and in the open, that I would be getting better. And I was declining very fast, exponentially.
Jesse takes issue with Ruby's testimony reported by the Daily Mail during that first custody hearing, since they believe the child went through a similar hell.
She's saying that he even confessed to it. Well, I also confessed to things that I didn't do as a way of trying to get the abuse to stop. Because when she's like drilling it into you both psychologically and physically that there's more, and it will stop once you tell her, because that's what she would tell you. Like in the middle of the abuse, she'd be like, I'll stop as soon as you tell me.
Jesse said Jody accused them of having an abortion and being addicted to drugs and sex, even putting them through a 12-step program, something that is traditionally followed at Alcoholics Anonymous.
I'd never done drugs. I'd never had sex. Again, I didn't know that masturbation was even possible. I had no idea what these things were. So I just started making things up as a way, as like trying to get this to stop, because I had no one there to help me. And when I spoke to the detective down in St. George days ago, I told her that as well. It's like and so even if he had confessed, it cannot be taken seriously, because this child was being tortured.
Some of the punishments inflicted on Ruby's son: forced outdoor labor without shoes, standing in direct sunlight for hours led to him suffering multiple sunburns with blistered and sloughing skin. He was punished for sneaking a drink of water. When he was allowed to eat, he was given plain meals, while other kids in the house were given more flavorful ones. He was isolated from others and denied access to books, notebooks, and electronics.
What is happening, it just echoes so close to home of what she did to me.
They're coming to you as quick as they can, okay?
Okay, yeah.
I really want to make sure.
He's fine. I've got him sitting here, my wife.
I'm trying to figure out what kept this woman from being stopped a decade ago. Salt Lake City, you had all the information you need to do a thorough investigation years ago.
He got him water and giving him something to eat, because he's hungry, and just a young man. He's hearing his stocking feet, so he escaped.
What is your relation to Ruby?
She is my aunt. So my Uncle Kevin, I'm related to by blood, and he married her.
What do you make of this whole situation, or at least when you first heard about all of what was going down, and Ruby and Jody being arrested on child abuse allegations.
But it's kind of like a train wreck that you can't look away from. I was a little bit stunned that someone that I was related to had just been arrested and made national news. I am still kind of trying to understand how anyone in my family, whether they're directly related to me or extended, could do that to their family. We haven't really seen Ruby for like 10 years.
Matthew told KUTV2 News he's concerned with what he described as the influence Jody had on his Aunt Ruby.
Starting this group with my aunt that is really cultish from the sounds of it. I think she should get put away for a long time. As far as my aunt,
That might have been weird.
I think she definitely needs to do time. I don't know what the future will hold for her, if this was maybe just her being led down the wrong path.
Matthew Franke said communication with his aunt through the side of the family was limited. According to Sisters of Ruby, though, they tried to foster a relationship with Ruby and her family of 8, but were cut off soon after she started working with Connection's classroom. Bonnie Holeen, Ruby's sister, who also runs a YouTube family channel, initially published a video saying the arrest of Ruby and Jody was necessary. Bonnie said Ruby, her husband Kevin, and ultimately Jody and the Connection's classroom have been destroying our lives offline for the last 3 years.
What my family and I have gone through the last couple of weeks is the worst thing that has ever happened to us.
Ruby's sister, Julie DeRue, who runs DeRue Crew Vlogs on YouTube, also shared a video titled My Side of the Story Concerning My Sister, Ruby Franke.
Jody Hildebrandt and her website or therapy style, I don't know what you want to call it, Connections, was not a great resource, and we all saw it.
Julie affirmed what her other sister Bonnie said. Ruby cut ties with family 3 years ago, around the same time she started working with Jody and Connection's classroom.
Crap hit the fan and she left the family.
She left the whole family.
Is Jody up there right now?
Yes.
Okay. Jody Hildebrandt is up there right now.
I would be surprised to find out that Jody Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke were not in a sexual relationship. Because Jody Hildebrandt gives me bull dagger vibes. She gives me gym teacher vibes. And Ruby Franke only respects people who are stronger and more evil than herself. And I would have a hard time believing they were not in some sort of sexual relationship. That even Jody Franke had not sexually manipulated Jody Hildebrandt. I'd be surprised to find out Jody Hildebrandt had not sexually manipulated Ruby Franke and wooed her into some secret sexual relationship that now is the crux of all this abuse these kids are receiving because she want to be their daddy.
Okay.
So she may come looking for him here soon, but he's not gonna, obviously. We need the cops here as soon as possible.
I'm just asking where he is now.
Yeah, she's a bad lady. We didn't realize how bad.
It isn't the first time Jody's character or methods have come into question. While she voluntarily turned in her mental health counseling license in mid-September following her arrest, she did have it suspended once before for violating patient confidentiality.
I was sent to Jody Hildebrandt with me and my wife together.
Adam Steed has come forward, identifying himself as the person who was at the center of Jody's license suspension in 2012. KUTV2 News confirmed the Division of Professional Licensing suspended her license with limitations for 18 months. It was eventually reinstated. According to the suspension documentation, she was reprimanded because she discussed sensitive information about Adam and his wife with his LDS church leaders and 2 other mental health therapists without their permission, while both attended Brigham Young University, according to the licensing division's official documentation of the incident. Adam said he was recommended to go to therapy by his church leader, known as a bishop.
The bishop was saying it was for both of us as a couple. There's a lot of trauma here.
Jody was found to have violated state law by contacting BYU counseling services and Adam's LDS church leaders with privileged information. Therapists cannot share patient information without patient consent.
They record in their writings the phone call where Jody Hildebrandt contacts them to talk about me.
As a result, the church also dropped Hildebrandt from their family services referral list, according to a 2012 report filed by the Salt Lake Tribune. Adam said Jody destroyed his marriage, life, and career ambitions due to her actions that led to his dismissal from BYU, the private university operated by his church.
I was sitting there with my baby, who's hugging me and crying she hasn't seen me. And next thing I know, I got served a protective order, and I'll never forget her screaming, yelling, "Daddy, no, Daddy, no," just screaming as this lady I don't know pulled her out of my hands, and then they hand me this restraining order against me.
She must have revealed that he was doing some of that middle-aged white man shit.
Adam isn't the only one who has come forward to criticize Jody's methods. Some people who participated in her Connections program and
let me just say this, because I said this when I posted this video in our community tab earlier. I want all the white people to come in the comments and talk about how embarrassed they are by Rudy Franke and Jody Hildebrandt and their behavior and how bad they make white people look and how embarrassed they are because this white woman and her white lover have abused these beautiful white children. I need all the white women to come in and talk about her. I need all the white people to ask each other if they're ashamed, if they're dismayed because she, as a white woman, did this and made all white women look bad. But that's not how bigots think. The bigots who come over here about Tiffany Henyard, aren't you embarrassed? It's such a shame how she makes black women look. Well, black women are not a monolith. And we understand that there are different black people. So we don't feel the need to look at Tiffany Henyard and defend ourselves. And we're not going to do it with you. But I need all the white people to put that same bigot attitude, that same broad stroke paintbrush attitude, that same one-track mind, small-minded attitude. I need all the white people to be like, she's such an embarrassment to black women. Call her what she is, you know? The barbaric white woman who hates children. You know, they have laws still on the books about how white women are allowed to behave with children. Because historically, white women have hated children in America, especially black children, to the point of murder. But I need all of y'all. I need all of y'all. I want to have to remove your comments for being a bigot and being racist against Ruby Franke. I need you to call her a plain Jane. I need you to talk about how ugly they are, how pasty they are, how they age like milk, how that bitch younger than me, but she look older than me. Come on, where you at? Where is it? And this video better get 20,000 views too. Because we talking about white women being barbaric and dishonest and cultish and abusive, which is the history, which is the pattern.
Utah told KUTV2 News Jody's approach to counseling was problematic.
It started to feel more and more evil. And I finally, in one of the group meetings, I got up and I just said, this is off.
Trey Warner said Jody Hildebrandt would regularly use shaming tactics among clients looking for marital advice. He also said Hildebrandt was an expert in making people believe they were dangerous to be around. He recounted one fellow participant's story to KUTV2 News.
There was a man that had a successful business that believed that he was a danger to his wife and his family because he did a double take. As a woman, like if he saw a beautiful woman, he would see and he'd look again. This guy got his own apartment and separated from his family because he was a danger.
In some cases,
I'm sorry, it probably wasn't a woman. It probably was a small child. I love how white people do that. This man probably had confessed to Jody Hildebrandt that he had a desire for small children, which is common amongst middle-aged white men, statistically. So he probably admitted it to her, and she probably handled it inappropriately, unprofessionally. But we're not going to sit here and act like it was because he liked, oh, come on. Why he going to see a therapist? Because he got an eye for chicks. Okay, white man, we like how you do that.
His Warner claimed husbands were separated from their families for so long, they were considering suicide.
They felt so sick and like such a failure that they just felt like they shouldn't be here anymore.
I saw Jody Hildebrandt with my ex-wife. We were married at the time, and it was couples counseling.
Bryce Delaripet was advised by his bishop as recently as 2021 to go see Jody Hildebrandt for counseling services to help with his new marriage. His interactions happened over Zoom.
The first thing that she wanted to ask about is, before we even started talking about anything, she just goes, "Have you ever watched pornography?" She was pretty obsessive about sexuality. It's kind of strange. It upsets me because I know that...
I'm telling you, she a lesbian. My mama said, whatever you see the preacher always preaching against is what that nigga dealing with. Eddie Long.
She has affected a lot of marriages, and they've come to an end because of her.
Her business, Connections Classroom, is this the same approach she uses for all of her patients as well that are not family or not Ruby's kids, as far as you know?
I don't know the intricacies of what she promotes and what she teaches on Connections Classroom. If it's anything even close, then, I mean, I'm certain that there's going to be parallels. I know that she believes that all shame should be punished. And I know that I wouldn't be surprised. I really don't know. I've stayed away as much as possible from her and her world, to just heal and to try to salvage any life that I could possibly live, post living with her.
Why do you think it took to 2023 for a child to escape, go to a neighbor's house, call
'cause she white,
911, and now this is a thing? Like, why did it take this long?
I think it's a combination of quite a few things. One, the church supports her. She's been promoted by the church, and people trust the church. Members trust their bishops, they trust their stake presidents, and a lot of these...
There needs to be an investigation seriously done on the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the Mormon Church. I'm just going to say that, and I'm going to put it out there. If there's not one done, we know why. I think they're giving sovereignty there as well.
Most people that are going to therapy, if not all, are in a vulnerable position. And she is remarkably convincing. She is also terrifying if you cross her, because she has and will systematically destroy your life.
To something that is such an anomaly.
We have a culture of people not believing children and not trusting children, and also children trust their parents, and then the parents trust the church. So there's been, and Jody, what she does that's so terrifying is that she utilizes and uses whatever is available. So if you go to her with OCD, if you go to her with severe depression, she'll use that information as a way of control. Oh, you have OCD because you have deep-rooted shame. And she also separates people. She keeps people so they can't talk and corroborate. Like, it is so vile and tricky and ingenious. Jody is, she is a very unwell person.
You did enjoy that banana, okay?
Yeah, he
did the right thing.
I mean, I want justice, and I want fair justice, so I want everything that she has done, that both of them have done, to be held accountable. Whether that be 6, 12, 18, however many, I just want to see that she is held accountable for the things that she has done. But I personally believe that is not covering everything that she's done. And I can say that because I know that she's not being held accountable for what she did to me. In the legal system, I mean.
What do you think the public will ultimately take away from these two as it pertains to the court proceedings and such?
I mean, I just hope that Jody is not sidelined in this, because she is so connected to what is happening. And yes, Ruby needs to be held accountable because she made those choices. She's just as guilty. But Jody's been doing this for much longer and has patterns and history in this. Even though Ruby's the focus, I just hope that Jody is not, that she's not able to slink away and just kind of fade into the background, because she's the foundation.
This isn't something that I just believe in. I have watched thousands of people change.
Sorry, I missed that, y'all. There is a premiere actually happening on this channel right now as I record the video that you're watching. It's a premiere of one of the Village Adulting meetings. I'm trying to get through all those meetings and break them down before the next board meeting. So that's happening at the same time. I got a little distracted. So let me just watch that again.
I have watched thousands of people change.
Change. Just in case this goes fast, because I don't know how fast this is going to go, and I hate when this happens. You probably saw this already, but it says, on October 10th, 2023, a judge ruled to seal the child custody case involving the 4 minor Franke children. Seal it. So, Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt were each charged with 6 counts of aggravated child abuse and held without bond. Wow. You see Ruby made some friends with some Mexicans in jail. They done braided her hair. Ruby agreed to plead guilty to 4 counts of second-degree felony aggravated child abuse in December 2023. That means she gave up some information on Jody. She lost 2 counts. How's that? Probably because 2 of them kids.
All right, I've been handed a plea agreement, and it appears to be signed by Ms. Franke. Ms. Franke, did you sign this agreement?
Yes.
And you did that today? When did you sign it?
The 18th.
Okay. You've read it carefully?
Every word.
All right, then. Ms. Franke, how do you plead to count 1, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
So it says she's in jail and she's sentenced February 2024. I don't remember what that looked like.
With my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and my children, guilty.
Is anyone pressuring you to enter into this agreement, or is anyone promising you anything that I haven't been told about or that is not in the written document?
No.
Then, Ms. Hildebrandt, how do you plead to count 1, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
Jody voluntarily surrendered her license to practice therapy in September 2023. Yeah, I guess she did. So it says, as of the time of this documentary, which was, when was this published? January 2024. As of the time of the documentary, Connections Classroom remains an active website pitching counseling services to people online, but what they probably do is just serve as a referral service. So Kevin Franke filed for divorce, but he should still be held accountable to some degree because he's aware of who his wife was and never said a word. And those kids should not be in his custody either because he's a punk ass nigga. Kevin filed a lawsuit against Jody in January seeking restitution to pay for his 2 children's ongoing care as they heal from emotional and physical abuse. And I get that, but where were you? Where were you? Like literally, Kevin, where were you? The fuck? I think the only thing that would have made this story more valid is if they had mugshots, like more mugshots, you know, like if they had really shown that. They didn't really. I honestly feel like this story still painted them in such a genteel way. It didn't really get into the shit like it should have because there's more. But I mean, like they don't even show you Ruby Franke really talking. They show short clips of her speaking, but there are clips out there of that woman going on and on to her children and about them in such horrible ways that they could have shown that. Fair use gives you that right, KUTV. So that's my criticism. Y'all still whitewash the story for the white lady. But anyway, that's all I got. I be trying to see if she's listening. Here she comes. All right, I holla. Bye, guys. Bye,